In the name of God, Creator, Redeemer, and the Spirit who is our companion. Amen. Generosity versus greed. Reaching out to others, centering on self. These two instincts are in absolute contradiction to each other. Most of us struggle trying to find a balance between the two. Perhaps balance was what the man was looking for when he asked Jesus to adjudicate his portion of the inheritance. He must have been the younger brother to whom only 1/3 of the estate could be inherited. After the father's death, it was up to the firstborn brother to act as executor. The younger brother's request was not that unusual. He wasn't asking to divide up the property too soon before the father's death, as the prodigal son in another of Luke's stories had the temerity to do. And it was customary for people to turn to local rabbis to make these adjudications. But Jesus will not take up the case. Jesus is not all that concerned about matters of property. What Jesus is worried about is the condition of his soul. So Jesus tells him this parable about the greedy rich man, the rich fool. Here the man is made wealthy by his judicious use and planting of many fields, and with many field hands, I'm sure. Poor thing, he has so much grain left over that his present silos or barns can't accommodate it all. And so he has this weird little conversation with himself, and this detail is important. Is there no wife to talk to? No friend to consult? Is there no thought to ask God what to do? Or at least to remember the great prophets who said, like Micah, what does the Lord require of you but to do justice and love mercy and walk humbly with your God? Did this unnamed rich fool think about anyone less fortunate, anyone with fewer resources? What about his very own field hands who slaved under the hot sun? What about travelers wandering by, hoping to glean leftovers from the harvest? Did he consider any of them? Apparently not. All he could think of was himself. And so after this weird conversation with himself, he concludes, I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry. But as we hear, that very night he dies, not knowing what will happen to the precious goods he tried so single-mindedly to preserve. He dies with no possible use for them anymore. He dies a stranger to his own soul. This parable was told to benefit the man looking for his inheritance, but we don't know the end to his story. I found myself wondering how he might have reacted to this story of Jesus's. I can imagine several responses. The younger man might have been impressed by Jesus's parable, and it might have led him to thinking, maybe I'm too focused on this inheritance. I don't need it right away. Maybe I should talk to my brother and see what he has in mind for the estate. Another response might have been that he was impressed at first, but then began to have doubts. I just wish the rabbi went ahead and advised me. I have a right to my share, and I want independence from my brother. I deserve this. Another response might have taken a darker tone, that Jesus doesn't know what he's talking about. He has no lands. What does he know about property management? Guess I'd better find another rabbi. Greed versus generosity. When we're trying to assess where we are on the spectrum between the two, it's easy to fall into that kind of self-justification. At least I know it is for me. It's complicated by the fact that there are many ways to be greedy. Not all of them involve money. We can be greedy for recognition, greedy for control. We can be desperate for the affections and loyalties of others. We can fall into self-defeating competition, never once stopping to think about the difference between what we want and those things we really need. Never stopping to think about the needs of people we say we care about. A wise person calls this never-ending cycle the unholy trinity of me, myself, and I. We might also call it the unholy tyranny of me, myself, and I. Only you and I can do a self-inventory of where we are along the greed-generosity spectrum. All I can suggest is that when we're caught up with what I want, what I need, my plans, my future, these thoughts may be red flags that we've become too self-focused, too self-involved, and may need to make an adjustment, a course correction. We correct in small ways and little things. Thinking about an old friend we haven't been in touch, calling them, or making a contribution for a special fundraising project in church, like those of us supporting our Afghan family, or donating to necessary improvements to our church building, which support not only our gathering together, but all our ministries, our pastoral care, Charlie's Place. This generosity of spirit may be all we need to feel more grounded, more connected, more content with who we really are in the depth of our souls. Jesus, along with all the great prophets, calls us to move from me to us. Jesus invites us to break out of that unholy tyranny of what I want, to find freedom in what the Reverend Dr. King calls the beloved community. Today's disturbing parable is less about wealth than our mindset, or is it our heart set? The rich fool does not understand, nor does he care to understand how his resources might be a blessing to others. When God demands his soul, what's left is only an empty shell. May that never happen for us. Amen.